Good afternoon. Welcome to this press conference after the NATO meeting of foreign ministers. We'll have the NATO Secretary General joining us remotely from Brussels and the German Foreign Minister here in Berlin. Secretary General.
Good afternoon. We have just finished our first informal foreign ministerial meeting. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend in person due to COVID, but let me start by thanking you, Anna-Lena, for hosting all the ministers for a free-flowing and constructive political discussion among the ministers. Germany is a staunch defender of the transatlantic bond. And at this turning point for our security, it is more important than ever that Europe and North America continue to stand united. Last night, Finland and Sweden updated ministers on their possible applications for NATO membership. It is up to them to decide if they want to join NATO. We will respect whatever decision they make, because all sovereign nations have the right to choose their own path. Finland and Sweden are NATO's closest partners. If they decide to apply, this would be an historic moment. Their membership in NATO would increase our shared security, demonstrate that NATO's door is open and that aggression does not pay. Today, allies discussed our strong support for Ukraine, the further strengthening of NATO's deterrence and defense, and the longer-term implications of the war, including on our future stance towards Russia. Russia's war in Ukraine is not going as Moscow had planned. They failed to take Kiev. They are pulling back from around Kharkiv. Their major offensive in Donbass has stalled. Russia is not achieving its strategic objectives. President Putin wants Ukraine defeated, NATO down, North America and Europe divided. But Ukraine stands, NATO is stronger than ever, Europe and North America are solidly united. Ukraine can win this war. Ukrainians are bravely defending their homeland. To help them to do so, allies have committed and delivered security assistance to Ukraine worth billions of dollars. And over the years, NATO and allies have trained tens of thousands of Ukrainian forces. All of this is making a real difference on the battlefield every day. We must continue to step up and sustain our military support to Ukraine and build on the work of the Ukraine Support Group, which recently met in Ramstein. Ministers also discussed our upcoming Madrid summit. We will make important decisions to reinforce NATO's deterrence and defense to reflect the new security reality in Europe, to further support and engage with like-minded partners near and far, and to adopt our next strategic concept, NATO's blueprint for an age of strategic competition. So, Mr. Baerbock, dear Anna-Lena, once again, thank you for hosting the meeting, and thank you for your strong personal commitment to our alliance. Over to you in Berlin before we take some questions.
Thanks a lot, and thanks that we can have this virtually, and still all the best. It was more than a pity that you could not join us on today's and yesterday's meeting. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, sehr geehrter Herr Generalsekretär,
Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary General, dear Jens, allow me to begin by saying on a personal note, how delighted I am and how delighted the foreign ministers of NATO have been that we have been able to meet this weekend in Berlin as member states of NATO for an informal exchange of views. I, as the host, I was delighted to be able to welcome my colleagues here to Berlin. As I said this very morning, informal is perhaps not what automatically springs to mind when you think of NATO, but these times are different from what they used to be. And I believe that this was exactly the right kind of meeting in this extremely difficult situation. It's really sad, Jens, that you, Secretary General, have not been able to attend in person. Although the meeting has basically been hosted and organized and prepared by NATO. With the G7 meeting in Weissenhaus and the NATO meeting here in Berlin and the upcoming meeting of EU foreign ministers in Brussels tomorrow, we have in a way experienced a kind of summit marathon, or are in the midst of experiencing such a marathon. We are aware of the terrible situation in Ukraine. The fact that we are meeting here and have met before and we continue to meet is an expression of how united we are. This weekend, our discussions were very much under the impression of the terrible war being waged in Ukraine. It is a war in which, day in, day out, people are being killed, lives are being destroyed. Let us not forget this for a second. We have discussed in a very comprehensive and open manner about the developments on the ground. We have analyzed the situation, the developments, and we discussed how we continue to support Ukraine and what we intend to do and will be able to do in order to support Ukraine and especially to support the people in Ukraine. We agree that as far as our national efforts are concerned, especially when it comes to military support, we must not tire in these efforts of ours, and we will not relent in our efforts. As long, that is, as Ukraine needs this support to be able to defend itself. As concerns the efforts undertaken in the framework of our alliance, there too we will keep the ball running, because we're all aware of the fact that this war will not end anytime soon. Russia's attack on Ukraine, Russia's breach of standards and norms of peaceful coexistence, especially the breach of the European peaceful order, the deliberate destruction of humanitarian law is or constitutes a watershed moment for decades to come with regard to the international security order, and it is also affecting the stability in the years to come. All of that has dramatically changed the security situation in the Euro-Atlantic area, and it will require far-reaching strategic responses on our part. To us in Germany and to us in Europe, it has been a reminder of the value, the security that the NATO has for our lives in democracy and in freedom. After years in which some NATO member states, and that includes Germany, thought that NATO was an outdated and outgoing model, we have unfortunately been reminded in the most brutal way of why NATO is so important as a security and defensive union. We all experience on a daily basis, and for the very first time, that security, peace, and above all freedom is not something that is bestowed us from heaven above, but guaranteed until kingdom come. I personally have to say that this is not an easy realization. It is indeed a painful realization, because it is so much easier to, even if you may disagree with your friends and neighbors every once in a while, to just live peacefully with them. It is easier for your everyday life. It is easier for diplomatic efforts that you undertake. It is easier for the economic interaction, but it is not a response at a moment like this. It's not time for easy answers. Right now, NATO as an alliance is more relevant and more important than ever. It embodies for all of us freedom and security. And thus it is good, Secretary General and dear Jens, that we've had this informal meeting in the run-up and to prepare the upcoming NATO summit in Madrid, because it has bestowed upon NATO a new dimension of importance and relevance. If we tackle this challenge, if we formulate and devise a strategic concept that responds to the changes, NATO will not only be relevant for our societies, in our societies and globally, will have changed. It will have become an alliance of those who, not should the case arise, be able to defend themselves, but it will also have become an alliance of those who represent the same values and are ready to stand up for them. Russia's war of aggression has achieved what Russia's president has tried to avoid. It has impressed upon all of us who we share common values and principles the need to stand united, and it has brought us together and has reminded us of the part that NATO plays, of its importance. What Russia has tried to prevent has created a situation where possibly 2 new members will join NATO, 2 countries that before the 24th of February had not planned to do so. If the people of Sweden and Finland now express the desire to become members of NATO, this is an expression of a fundamental change in our security perception, of a fundamental change in our security, peaceful order in Europe. As I said this morning, ladies and gentlemen, and I repeat this here because I'm deeply convinced of this. Sweden and Finland are not our friends. They are not only our partners. They already have been for quite a long time members of the European family. And this is why they can rely on our fullest support for any decision that they will and may take with an eye to their security. The doors of NATO are open to them, and if they decide to step over the doorstep, we will receive them with open arms. Sweden and Finland are politically and militarily ready for accession. There's no doubt about that. The 2 foreign ministers who joined us yesterday were very clear on this. They are members of the European Union and the OSCE, and thus are part of our European peaceful orders, and their forces are already integrated into the structures of NATO to a very large degree. Both countries fulfill all standards of NATO, and both countries are already participating in NATO missions. Their accession would further strengthen our alliance. They are practically already members of NATO without having member status, without having a membership card. I know, and that is, we all talked about this yesterday with Pekka Haavisto and Ann Linde, that this is also a very emotional moment for Sweden and Finland. For the very first time, this would bring together all Nordic states under one security umbrella, a development which, because until recently they didn't have a majority for such a decision in both countries I mentioned, would have been unthinkable 6 months ago and inconceivable. It's a moment for the other Nordic countries who already are members of the alliance to reflect upon. The people in Finland and Sweden who rightly say that our political home is the European Union, our peaceful order is based on the Helsinki Final Act, on the OSCE. To those people I would like to say the same is true for us. And it is also true to say that with NATO there is no either or. There is no contradiction here. Membership in NATO is an expression of the implementation of the right to freely choose one's alliance, the sovereign right of any individual nation. And like the European Union, unlike the OSCE, NATO too embodies the primacy of political solutions and represents a rules-based international order. This morning already I was very clear, and our friends in Helsinki and Stockholm, should they decide in favor of joining, which is, I think, not to be excluded quite completely, should they take that decision, we in Germany, we do whatever we can in order to make sure that this sensitive transition phase, from the moment the application has been submitted to its ratification, is as short as possible, so that there is no in-between, no transition or grey phase at all. That, again, was another topic we talked about yesterday in greater detail with our colleagues from Sweden and Finland. And we basically see eye to eye on this. This is why the federal government will proceed along the lines of a fast-track procedure. We will use all means at our disposal available to us, having a cabinet decision at the shortest delay, a call for special sessions of the federal parliament, that is to ensure that this process of ratification takes place quickly, not only is being set in motion, but also carried out quickly, and that the legal foundations are prepared so that we will be amongst the first to ratify. I know that we enjoy, and I'm very grateful for that we enjoy the great support from the members of the Bundestag here. And we hope that in so doing, we will also, in a way, produce traction for the process of ratification of Sweden and Finland's accession in other member countries of NATO. Quite a few countries have expressed their readiness to also respond quickly. It's not as if we had taken any decisions here, this being an informal meeting, but we agreed amongst ourselves to send out the message to Sweden. Sweden and Finland, if you're ready, we're ready.
Questions will start with Sedef. Go ahead, Florian.
Thank you, Florian Neuhan, ZDF. Turkey's position has probably also figured dominantly. The Turkish foreign minister demanded security guarantees. Are you ready to comply with these conditions? Have there been certain agreements reached already? How likely do you think it is for Turkey to quickly
And a question to you, Mr. Secretary General. Do you expect any retaliation measures from Russia? What could that be, and how would NATO react if, for example, Russia attacks on does cyber attacks or violates the airspace or whatever there could be as a possibility? Thank you.
If that was to me, or...
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, I would just like to highlight that when it comes to Finland and Sweden, of course, these are sovereign, independent Swedish and Finnish decisions. They are now in the final stages of their processes, and throughout the process, it has been very important for me and for NATO to demonstrate that we respect their decision-making processes without trying to interfere or to give them advice. We respect their decisions regardless of what the conclusions will be. Then on Turkey, Turkey is an important ally. Turkey has expressed some concerns, and as we always do in NATO, when there are concerns, when there are questions, we sit down, and I'm confident that we will be able to find a common ground, an agreement, consensus on how to move on the membership issue. Because all allies agree that NATO's door is open. Allies agree that NATO's enlargement process has been a great success over many, many years, and also that Finland and Sweden qualify for a membership. They are by far our closest partners, have worked with NATO for many, many years. So if Finland and Sweden applies and join NATO, then that will be an historic moment for Europe, for Finland and Sweden, for NATO and for the whole transatlantic bond. It will contribute to strengthen Finland and Sweden, NATO, and also strengthen stability across the Euro-Atlantic area. I have been in contact with Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu. He was attending the meeting yesterday evening, and I expect that we will be able to follow up quickly if Finland and Sweden applies for a membership. When it comes to Russia, of course, we are monitoring closely. We are following very closely Russia's behavior along our borders in the vicinity of NATO territory. And as a reaction to the war in Ukraine, we have significantly both increased our surveillance, our capacity to monitor, but also our military presence in the eastern part of the alliance, including the Baltic region, more than 40,000 troops under direct NATO command, backed by significant naval and air power. So it is clear that we are there following very closely what Russia is doing, and we are also, of course, ready to follow closely if Russia anyway try to launch any kind of hybrid cyber attacks against any NATO allied countries. Then let me add that we are also aware that Finland and Sweden are, of course, concerned about the interim period from when they have applied to all the national parliaments have ratified the accession protocol. We will try to speed up that process as much as possible. Many allies have stated that they will find fast tracks, as for instance Germany has indicated that this can go quite fast. But anyway, there will be a time period between application and full membership. It is clear that Finnish and Swedish membership matters for NATO. We will look into ways to provide security assurances, including by increasing NATO presence in the region, in the Baltic region, in and around Finland and Sweden, of course in close consultation and based on agreement with Finland and Sweden.
Ganz kurz zum ersten Teil der Frage.
Just briefly on the first part of the question, which was directed to me. This was exactly the purpose of yesterday's meeting. As I said, it's an informal meeting. We had only the ministers of foreign affairs present in the room. It was a very confidential meeting, and it helped us exchange in a friendly atmosphere marked by trust on these different perspectives. Trust and understanding, cooperation, where you don't necessarily read form papers that have been prepared, but allows for a free-flowing debate where you can exchange your points of view. Thus, I don't want to share in detail with you how far we have come in reaching agreement here. It's, you know already that the Turkish, the Finnish and the Swedish foreign minister have already engaged in talks and consultations. What I can say, however, despite this terrible reality, because nobody wanted this to happen really, and we felt this, you know, we had this feeling of this being a special historical moment. You know, normally we sit there as foreign ministers representing millions of people in our countries, millions of Europeans. We represent the transatlantic area. We represent people who wish for nothing more urgently than to continue to live in freedom and peace. So we felt this realization of this being a historic moment. We also felt that we have a shared responsibility to live up to that historic moment. 73 years ago, when you look to the fact that the Nordic countries did not in their totality decide to join, but for the very first time now you would have not only two more Nordic countries join, but for the Nordic countries it would mean that two direct neighbors of theirs would join and become members. And this is something we all felt strongly yesterday.
First of all, a question to both the Secretary General and the Foreign Minister. I want to follow up on what the ZDF colleague was saying. You were clearly saying, Secretary General, that right now Turkey's concerns that they have not been fully addressed yet. It's something that you're still talking about. How long do you think that could hold up the process of ascension of Finland and Sweden to NATO? Because, of course, as you say, in that interim process, there is some uncertainty for these countries, and the longer that process takes, the more difficult it is for these countries. You have countries like Germany that want to get this done in a very quick way, but obviously a country like Turkey could hold that back if their concerns are not addressed. And then also, basically on the same topic also, both Sweden and Finland, but especially Finland, is already facing vile threats from the Russian Federation. There's been talk about annihilating Finland. They've already cut off electricity to Finland. What is NATO going to do to make abundantly clear to the Russians that it's not going to allow states that want membership of NATO to be intimidated?
First of all, Turkey has made it clear that their intention is not to block membership. And therefore, I'm confident that we will be able to address the concerns that Turkey has expressed in a way that doesn't delay the membership or the accession process. So my intention is still to have a quick and swift process where we will then sit down with Finland and Sweden if they apply, agree the accession protocol, and then hope and work for a very speedy ratification process in the 30 parliaments. That will take some time. There's no way to prevent that. But the plan is to have this, and that's still my intention, as a process that goes faster than we have seen before. When an ally raises concerns, we have proven over decades in NATO that we are able to sit down and then find consensus, find a way to agree, and then move forward. And that's my intention, that's my plan, and I'm confident that we'll be able to do so also in this case. Because all allies realize the historic magnitude of the moment. This is an historic opportunity we need to seize, and that has been expressed by allies and also discussed yesterday evening. We are ready to sit down with Finland and Sweden and also to address their concerns in this interim period. And as I said, this is partly about increasing NATO military presence in the region, on land, at sea, and in the air, of course in close consultations with Finland and Sweden. We already work closely with Finland and Sweden, for instance, on hybrid threats and cyber threats. We have a center of excellence on hybrid threats in Helsinki. So we have already developed very close ways of working together with them to address some of the threats and challenges they are afraid that they will see more of in this interim period. So we will work closely with them to bridge and to provide assurance measures in the interim period.
Okay, final question, Frankfurt Allgemeine Zeitung.
Thomas Kutschka from the Frankfurt Allgemeine Zeitung.
Thomas Kutschka, a question addressed to the Foreign Minister. Until now, NATO described its relationship with Russia as being 3D: deterrence, defense, and dialogue. Germany has time and again spoken out in favor of pursuing a dialogue with Russia. What can remain of that approach after Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine? And from your point of view, would you say that the new strategic concept should contain or establish a reference to the NATO-Russia Founding Act, which has dealt with this aspect of having a dialogue with Russia? There always has to be a dialogue. Even in a brutal world, we need to engage in a dialogue, because then, if we were not to do so, it would put paid to coexistence. We, as a Western Defense Alliance, embody the international order that is a product of everyone agreeing on the principles and foundations of an international order. But we have all been forced to realize that the OSCE, which was the final forum for discussions, and this is why I highlighted its importance earlier, that even there Russia has in a way bombed that offer for a dialogue, blown it up into air. The Minsk process, which brought together Germany and France on behalf, who spoke and discussed and worked on behalf of all the other countries to avoid such a war of aggression. We also had the OSCE mission on the ground, of which Russia was a member and a part, and it was Russia that attacked this mission on the ground. These are people who were killed because of what happened. The European peaceful order, something in which we not only believe and have believed in, but that we've also been working tirelessly to strengthen, is embodying this idea of having exchange, engaging in dialogue, and in the truest sense of the word, it has been bombed to shreds. So we had no choice but to be very clear as to that we stand fully not only at the side of Ukraine, but also we are willing and ready to support Ukraine militarily so as to enable them to defend themselves. But nevertheless, having experienced all of this, having experienced that the Russian side has destroyed any format for dialogue, any form of dialogue, has bombed to shreds the European peaceful order, we have continued to use different channels. And I do understand why you're pinpointing Germany here, but there were different actors, the American president, the French president, the German chancellor, the Turkish president, and many others who have time and again tried to use channels open to them. When the moment came that Russia seemed to signal that they were willing to engage, and they talked to the Russian president on the phone. They tried to impress upon him that we stand ready at any given moment, not only to talk, but also to ensure that people are no longer being killed. But in order to achieve that, the shelling, the bombardments have to end. And this is also, by the way, what this new strategic concept of NATO will stand for. It reflects exactly that. It is a reflection of the new reality that deterrence and defense, the ability of NATO to defend itself, is something that plays a different partner from what the situation was like before the 24th of February. We all know that the Russian government has broken international law, has broken any piece of legislation, has violated the NATO-Russia Founding Act, because we referred to that in the second part of your question. The Russian government has made very clear that that Founding Act too has become of no value to Russia. So we have to take note of the fact that this Founding Act has been revoked, cancelled unilaterally by Russia, not by NATO. So we have to realize that the elements of this Founding Act, what was agreed in that document, is no longer relevant or valid to Russia. As I said, it will be reflected in NATO's new strategic concept, and we will thus strengthen the eastern flank of NATO, ensuring not only that the two countries that will probably join NATO are not being threatened, but also to ensure that our Baltic partners and the partners along the southern flank are being protected and defended. Thus, we will continue to make available additional capabilities. This is why the Federal Republic of Germany tries to do whatever it can in order to ensure that every inch of our territory can be defended should the need arise. What will change? What has changed? Well, the tripwire logic, for example, no longer works. Just to give you one case in point, because it is no longer going to be decisive whether places that may be occupied can be liberated afterwards. The Russian president has been very clear. We are talking war crimes here, the most heinous crimes committed against mankind, and this is why we have to be in a position to ensure and to defend and to protect every inch of our territory.
Thank you very much. Then this concludes the press conference. Thank you.
Vielen Dank.